What's up everyone, this is Soul Reaper, and in this video I want to show you what I'm going to be using for my build for Amara in Borderlands 3. If you're new to the channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you enjoy the video, please remember to leave a like. Now, kind of what I had in mind going into Borderlands 3 for Amara, I really want to focus on all of her elemental damage that she can do. With that in mind, I think the perfect tree for that is Fist of the Elements. Moving on from there though, I do kind of want to go ahead and optimize the damage per second that she can do as well. And having looked at each of the skills that each tree offers, I feel like Mystical Assault is the better option, especially considering the fact that I don't really feel like doing a melee build, which is what Brawl would specialize in. So, with that said, let's go ahead and get right into the video. First things first, we're going to need an action skill, and I'm just going to go ahead and equip Phase Grasp. This one might as well just be Phase Lock from Borderlands 2, it is practically the exact same thing, but with that said, the one I really want is going to actually be Fist over Matter. But for now, let's go ahead and build the tree, and we'll get back to that later on. So looking at the different skills that Amara offers right off the bat, I want to go ahead and go with Anima. That just increases Amara's status effect damage over time and also gives it increased duration. On top of that, any sort of status effects that are caused by her action skills get an even bigger boost when it comes to their damage. So with that said, let's just go ahead and max this out. And that's going to double our duration for status effects, increase the damage by 20%, and if it comes from the action skill, the status effects gain 40% damage. Moving on from here, we have a lot more skills to go with, but first things first, let's go ahead and equip Soulfire. This changes the damage that our Phase Grasp will eventually do into incendiary damage, and I personally feel like that's going to be a lot more useful than shock damage. So moving on from here, I actually want to focus a lot on Wildfire. My whole idea is to get the status effects on every enemy possible, and this is going to be one of the better ways to do that. But before I get to that, I actually want to just go ahead and improve her melee damage first. Seeing as especially early on in the game, we might not be getting too many elemental weapons. So from here, let's go ahead and take this to 4, and then we can move on to Dread. This is only one skill point, but it's going to increase her gun damage whenever an enemy is grasped. And on top of that, if you kill the enemy that is phase grasped, your gun will instantly be reloaded. Let's also at this point go ahead and equip Allure. This, I believe, is going to have a good effect with Wildfire in terms of spreading the status effect, so the two of them will pair perfectly together and do great when it comes to taking out large groups of enemies. So at this point, there's a little bit more options that come to mind. Immediately, I actually want to improve the accuracy with Steady Hands and also the weapon handling. There is another skill in Amara's Mystical Assault skill tree that will improve accuracy, but I think that for right now, this is the better option. But I don't want to do it all the way because I also want to level up Tempest a bit, which is going to increase her elemental damage as well as her shock damage on top of that. So let's just go ahead and put 2 points into that to unlock the next section. And from there, I want to focus on being able to ricochet bullets, which comes with Indiscriminate. So like I said, Indiscriminate lets you ricochet bullets, but unlike Maya in Borderlands 2, this is not solely dependent on if your action skill is up. That said, if your action skill is active, you do get an increased percent of chance, as well as an improvement to the overall damage reduction that your bullets will take. So pretty much that means that bullets that do ricochet end up doing more damage while Phase Grasp is active, rather than when it's not. So let's go ahead and just max that out, just because I feel like that works perfectly with Wildfire and later on Sustainment. So we have 3 points of that, and then let's go ahead and go over to Deep Well, which is going to increase your magazine size with elemental weapons. No reason not to get that, let's go ahead and pick that up too. In the meantime, actually, you should have gone ahead and equipped Ties That Bind, at least for the time being. This works perfectly when it comes to damaging an entire group of enemies, because using Ties That Bind, enemies that are near the grasp target are linked and share damage between all of them, with a slight penalty towards damage done. But still, this is a great augment, there's no reason not to get it, at least not in the meantime. I'm not much of a fan of Catharsis, it makes enemies that have elemental effects applied to them explode once they've died. But I feel like there are better options in this skill, and the cooldown tied to this skill I feel is a limitation I'd rather just not deal with. So with that said, let's go ahead and head back up to Wildfire and level that up. I really like the idea of having improved spread chance, and from there, let's also go ahead and equip the Fist over Matter action skill now that it's unlocked. For the longest time, I was actually using this build with Ties That Bind, but after having seen some gameplay, the Fist over Matter damage is just as good, if not better, when it comes to dealing with groups, especially if you're using the lure and you pull enemies in just to get damaged by the fists that come out of the ground afterward. At this point, maybe you've noticed that we don't have too much in terms of healing, and this is where we're going to make a change by equipping Sustainment. With this skill, any sort of elemental damage you do with your gun, you get 20% lifesteal when maxed out. So at this point, let's just go ahead and get ourselves a capstone ability, and if I'm reading this correctly, it means that whenever we do gun damage, we get an extra 18% elemental damage added to it, and the element is based on the augment we have chosen. In this case, that being Incendiary. So at this point, that's what this skill tree is going to look like. We do still have 22 points to invest, So let's go ahead and take a look at the Mystical Assault tree. Like I mentioned earlier, I don't exactly plan on spending anything in the Brawl tree. I do actually like the Samsara skill, but it's just too deep of an investment at this point to make use of, especially because I would ideally like to get up to Laid Bare and Wrath. So with that said, let's go ahead and get Violent Tapestry. This skill unlocks rush stacks. You can also get them with Do Harm, but I prefer this skill because it gives Amara increased status effect chance when she has the rush stacks built up. So be sure to max that one out. The reason I like this skill so much is because of how it ties in with her Fist of the Elements tree. Whereas that was all about increasing your damage with elemental effects, this singular skill will improve the chances of actually getting the trigger. Keeping in line with the idea of using rush stacks, I actually want to go ahead and unlock Alacrity and put 2 points into it for the time being. More than likely I pronounced that wrong, but honestly I have no idea how to say it, so that's just what it is, Alacrity. Anyways, it'll improve our reload speed with every rush stack, and that bonus will be improved further for 8 seconds after using an action skill. From here, I want to go ahead and take Fast Hands up to 3 of 3, improving our reload speed, weapon swap speed, and mode switch speed by 19%, 36%, and 36% respectively. At this point, Ascendant is an option, but having given it some thought, I'm deciding not to include it because we are starting to run low on points, and I feel like they could be better spent elsewhere. It's definitely an option, but with Lure, I actually just don't think it'll be as big of a difference as you might expect. But for the time being, I'm actually just going to go ahead and skip that and put some points into Transcend instead. It improves our accuracy and critical hit damage, which is just an added bonus to the accuracy boost we gave ourselves in the previous skill tree. I do like the idea of having reduced action skill cooldown, but considering 10% of 28 seconds is not even 3 seconds, the difference really doesn't seem worth it to me. From Rest is an option, especially if you're using Maliwan shotguns because of the charge time that we've seen associated with them, and of course the fire rate bonus is also nice. But that said, I feel like I can live with a slight delay, and instead I'm going to focus on maxing out Laid Bare, increasing the damage enemies take from all sources after taking damage from an action skill, seeing as it works perfectly with Fists Over Matter, which we are using. At this point we have 2 points left until the next section. I'm going to throw them into Wrath to improve gun damage a bit. This bonus is further increased after using your action skill, which of course is always nice. Now we have the next section unlocked and our last 2 remaining skill points to use. This one is really up to you, but I'm leaning towards Remnant, since, again, referring to some gameplay I've seen, the orb that gets sent out actually seems to do quite a bit of damage, and the increase of effectiveness in rush stacks just doesn't quite grab my attention unless I can max it out to 3 of 3. Of course, I would like to get the capstone ability and double up our rush stack capacity. It'll make all the previous skills so much better that use them, but unfortunately it is not an option for the time being. We'll just have to wait until we get the level cap pushed up. So with all that done, let's go ahead and take a quick look at everything that we have so far. Like I mentioned at the beginning, this tree is focusing on the Fist of the Elements skill tree first, and then moves over to Mystical Assault. I did get the Fist of the Elements capstone, but looking back also, the Mystical Assault capstone is another one that really interests me. If you have an interest towards using the Mystical Assault capstone instead, I would suggest taking 4 points at the very end of Fist of the Elements and moving them over. You can really place them wherever you like. I would suggest maxing out rush stacks and also getting the orb, which is what we have already, just because the capstone increases your maximum rush stacks, and proving the effectiveness of 20 potential rush stacks over 10 is a significant difference from what you have right now. But anyways guys, that's going to be it for the video. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, please remember to leave a like. Let me know down in the comments how your build for Amara might differ from mine. If you want to see me do a build for any other particular character, let me know down in the comments as well. Subscribe for more content in the future, and I will see you next time.
The fight finds me.